Reclaim your power and learn to live your most amazing life with Mike Murphy on The Creation Frequency. Mike explores authentic and relevant truth and powerful conversations with some of the world's most renowned game changers. Level up your life and rewire your program. Think new thoughts and create true freedom. Infinite possibilities, fostering peace and joy with an unfiltered heart. Now, here's Mike Murphy.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Creation Frequency podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Keneally, and we're here to dive deep into the world of manifesting and creating the life of your dreams, really, by using this powerful creation frequency process. So if you're ready for practical solutions and to really move the needle in your life, then you're at the right place and you're going to really enjoy today's episode. This show is sponsored by Mike Murphy Unfiltered, and if you head to MikeMurphyUnfiltered.com, you're going to find tons of resources and wisdom and guides and freebies and all sorts of resources that are going to help you really just manifest the life that you want and that you deserve. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to the man behind the creation frequency, Mr. Mike Murphy.
Thank you, Jacob. How's everything in Ohio today?
It's going good, other than the tornado warning from about an hour ago out of the blue.
Wow. Well,
but,
good luck with
everything else.
Do you have a basement?
Yeah, but we're recording on the top floor right now. So
okay, let's hope it doesn't happen in the next 3 minutes. I grew up in Ohio, so I know tornadoes and basements. So anyways, thank you very much. Hey, listen, guys. I know a lot of people today in today's world are really struggling with compulsive behavior, which is something I've struggled with my whole life, bad habits that become addictions. And that's what we want to talk about today, because it's more and more becoming a very serious thing in America and throughout the whole world. There's drugs, these alcohols, and then there's all the new addictions that we have. These phones, these iPads, these pornography is everywhere. So there's a lot of people suffering and they feel trapped. And this is where my heart goes out to. I've struggled with almost everything there is to struggle with in life. Anything that feels good, I always wanted to do more of it. And the truth is, we're looking for that dopamine hit. That's the real drug. And we just use gambling and other things, pornography and sex and promiscuity to get those dopamine hits. So we want to take a deep dive into addictions, probably for the next 3 or 4 weeks, because it's such a huge issue in the world today in so many areas. I see so many people stuck in these ruts and they can't get out of them. So we're going to hopefully show you using the creation frequency formula. And we have a special guest that's going to be with us next 3 or 4 weeks as we explore that. And this person I've known literally since the day she was born, because she's also my niece, and she's been working with me for the past 5 or 6 years. And she has an amazing story. So Melia Storley, if you would join us now, welcome to the show. And I'd love it if you would just share your journey of addiction, and then we'll talk about recovery after you share that. Welcome, Melia.
Hi, welcome. Hi, my name is Melia. Thank you for having me. And I will say that when this plays tomorrow, that I'll be celebrating 6 years clean and sober. And so that's like a huge thing for me, right? Because I never in my life thought that I was ever going to get to a point where I would be clean and sober, right? Like I had become resigned to the fact that I was just going to be living the way that I was living for the rest of my life, because I didn't know another way out. And, I grew up like in a, middle-class family, both parents around. And, when I was about 12, my parents got divorced. And that was like a big thing for me, right? That was, not having both parents living in the home. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of, anger. There was a lot of, my parents did the best that they could with what they had, but they were so young and just unable to really parent us in the way that we needed, I think, at that point in time, that we kind of just got into other things. All three of us did. I started using substances at a young age. I think I started drinking and trying smoking cigarettes when I was 10, and I didn't end up getting clean and sober until I was 34.
Wow.
And so that was like a lifetime of, being in and out of different facilities, in and out of different programs, in and out of jails, institutions, all the stuff that they talk about. And, what I was really searching for, what I found in it was just like love, acceptance. It was a lot of fear-driven behavior, and just acting out on fear by manipulating, acting out on fear by lying, stealing, cheating, and not knowing how to, have faith in something outside of myself, because I'd relied on myself for so long that I didn't think that I was ever gonna, I didn't know how to achieve that, right? And what I'd been taught from such a young age was that you don't show your insecurities, you don't show your weaknesses, because they'll be used against you. And so I never wanted to ask for help, right? It was always my family saying, you need to go do this, or you're going to this program, or the courts or the judges saying like, okay, you're going to go sit down in jail for a little while because you can't seem to follow the rules that society has placed, right?
Yeah.
And so I became resigned to the fate that I would just be an addict for the rest of my life.
And let me ask you this. You started smoking and drinking at age 10. And you ended up on heroin, correct?
Yeah,
so
I ended up as a...
how do you go from 10 smoking, drinking to a heroin addict? And how long were you a heroin addict? And how bad was it? What was that life like?
So I have the disease called addiction, right? And that means that I will use anything outside of myself to make myself feel whole and complete, and to fill a void and cope with life, right? Because I didn't know how to do that. And so it was a progressive process, right? Started with smoking and drinking, smoking cigarettes, drinking, and progressed. Every drug, I've probably done it or tried to do it at some point in time, because it made me feel good for a little while. I started using heroin when I was 21.
Wow.
And I wasn't able to quit until I was 34.
Wow.
And, I did all of the things that I said I was never going to do.
Wow.
I worked in the sex industry for 10 years. I did everything that I said, oh, I won't do that, or I won't be that bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't just the physical. I mean, it did become the physical dependency.
Right.
Eventually. And that's the thing with like Suboxone, methadone, all these harm reduction things. They're all just as addictive.
Yep.
You can use any one of them. So what I had to finally do was just cold turkey it. And the only way I was able to do that was being in jail, locked down for 24 hours a day.
Wow.
And
that had to be a nightmare. I can't imagine.
Yeah, it really was. And it just became this revolving door of like, I would get out and I had no resources, right? I didn't know how to get the help that I needed, but I knew it was out there because I'd been introduced to, a program that is now working for me. I was introduced to that program by your sister when I was like 14 years old, because everyone around me could see that I had this disease, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, but it wasn't until I was completely beaten and broken and willing to surrender to something outside of myself that I was able to, just try something different.
So you said something that I want to go into, and you said fill a void. You were using drugs and alcohol to fill a void. And I believe that, I think it was Thoreau that said most men lead lives of quiet desperation. So I think in a lot of people, especially today's world, there's this emptiness inside. There's this disconnect. There's this void. And what I believe it's a disconnect from our soul. And perhaps that started to happen to you when your parents got divorced. That void you started to notice and feel that void. And that's a scary feeling. So you feel that void with drugs or alcohol. And so that took you to a terrible place of I didn't even know it was that long that you were addicted to heroin for that long. So let's talk about the moment you said enough is enough and you started that road to recovery. What was that catalyst, and then what was that recovery like?
So I was in jail. I was looking at 10 years in prison.
Wow.
And I was on a 23-hour lockdown every day. So we would get an hour out. And I had been using drugs through most of that jail sentence, right? Because, and I just got to a point where I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. Mm-hmm. I would call my daughter and she would be asking me, what does that sound? Because when you make a jail phone call, they let you know it's a jail phone call. And I remember just praying and praying and praying, like not that into a religious God, but just to anything that would listen to me, because I was so broken, right? And I knew that I was going to die. I knew that I was going to die if I continued to do what I wanted, what I was doing, but I didn't want to die. And so there was like this like flicker of flame of hope within me that was like, all right, I'm going to try and do this, right? And so I was able to stop. I was able to like get my hands on some literature. I was able to go to some meetings while I was there, and like just I made this commit. I remember like begging, like, please, whatever's out there, to just please like lift the obsession and the compulsion and the desire to use from me for just a few minutes so I can like breathe, right? Because I'd been surviving for so long. I wasn't breathing. I was just going a million miles an hour, just trying to, I don't even know. It was just this chaotic tornado, right? And like, luckily, for whatever reason, like at that moment or the next morning, I remember just like the desire to use was lifted, and I was able to, and I just started like walking every day. I started like saying positive affirmations to myself. I started doing yoga in my jail cell. And I just remember saying to myself, like, I know that there's another way, right? And I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I know that if I just do the next right thing and I just do everything a little bit differently and be open to a different possibility than this like negative, self-limiting, self-defeating, searching for something outside of myself, that I know that I'm powerful and strong enough, or that I used to be, that I can do something different. Right.
Yeah.
And that's, and that carried on. So when I got out, I went to a program, and since then, like I have 6 years clean and sober today, and I've never had that much time since I was 10 years old. Never in my life have I gone without a substance for 6 years, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah. Miraculous.
It really is.
What was the biggest thing in your recovery? Was it a particular treatment program? Was it a book? Was it the 12-step programs? What was it that really was your journey, your hold on to thing that really got you to these 6 years? What was it? What do you hang on to for these 6 years to stay sober every day?
I mean, it's been everything, right? A combination of all of those things. But what I've found, like at the end of the day, is, and what it really boils down to, is like, I just do the next right thing. I speak, and I'm of service, right? Like I give back everything that I've gotten, because what I've learned is that, like, my parents couldn't help me, right? My family couldn't help me. People that aren't addicts, that don't understand this disease, or that aren't addicts or alcoholics themselves, like really couldn't get what I was going through, right? And so it's just been all of that. Like I just get up every day, I meditate, I take care of myself, like I surround myself with good people. I'm of service, like to the same programs and the same institutions that I was once incarcerated in. I bring meetings back. I help other women. I help other men. Like now I have this sober living house that I'm working with right now, and it's a men's, and like I get to watch men come out and like recreate, like do the things that they never thought they could do. And the biggest thing is service. Yeah. Right. And it's following direction, and it's having a relationship with a power greater than myself. Right. And like all of that ties into the creation frequency. And like when we get there, we'll get there. But I've manifested everything when I took the course the first time. And it's crazy to me, because I never ever thought that I would be anything more than a homeless heroin addict who had lost her family, lost her kids, and lost everything. Like that's what I had resigned myself to that fate. Wow. So
what role did once you got sober and you got some longevity, then you started doing the work of the creation frequency. So I'm curious for you personally, what that meant to you. And then what do you do? Do you have this sober living place where you have 10 or so men that live there and you're working with them? And do you introduce that to them? Is that beneficial to them? I'm just curious what's going on as far as the creation frequency formula.
Yeah. So, Okay, so my addiction, right, is not just about drugs and alcohol. And I
Right.
found that like in society, like we're all addicted to something, right?
Right.
Like I may not be using drugs and alcohol anymore, but
Right.
I have other addictions,
Right.
right? I have addictions to bad relationships,
Right.
abusive relationships, which
Right.
I found myself repeatedly in over and over and again
Yeah.
because my idea of what I thought love
Right.
was being controlled and hurt emotionally and physically by another human being. Like I thought that was how they showed me love.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took the course, I was in this really bad relationship, right? And it was filled with cheating and dishonesty and abuse, and we were in our addiction together. And like one of the things that it asks us to manifest, right, or to create an intention for is how we want our relationship to look
Right.
like. And I didn't know how I was ever going to get out of that relationship, but I knew that I didn't want to be. I knew it wasn't what I wanted, right?
Right.
And so I wrote my intention, like, I that I'm in a loving relationship with someone who not only completes me but strives to be better with me, who's in recovery, who has their own life but can bring, that we can do
Right.
something together, just all these things, right? And probably about a year and a half after I wrote that intention, I found a way to leave that relationship and continue to like support myself financially by myself, to
Mm-hmm.
live and stay clean and sober, which had been an issue before when I left relationships. And then the universe brought into my life like a man that was striving to do good, and with it, and it wasn't this codependent, crazy, addictive relationship, because that can be as big of addiction, right, as drugs and alcohol for me, is that love and that toxic. It's not even love, toxicity.
Drama.
And so then I also wrote a intention about being able to buy a house, right? Being able to start a sober living. I never in my life thought that I would have that ability, right?
Wow.
Financially, or my credit would never be good enough, or whatever the case is, right? And I, because I couldn't even rent a house for a long time because I was a convicted felon. Because
Right.
every time they would ask me, hey, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years? And I said, yes, I didn't have, I couldn't get a place to live. They would
Right.
deny me based on that,
Right.
regardless of what I was trying to do to change my life.
Right.
And so, we were able to, like, within 6 months of meeting, we were able to, get the money together to put down on a house, to buy a house, right? Within 6 months. And this is about a year and a half after I set that intention. And then 2 months later, we started this sober living, this men's sober living, which I'd been researching for 2 years, right? How do I get the funding? How do I work with organizations? How do I help these people, right? And, our plan is to do more, but, it's all a direct result of like speaking it into existence. And rather than focusing on the outcome, focusing on the day to day, hour by hour, minute of just doing the next right thing.
Right.
How do I raise, and like, these are your own words, right? How do I raise my vibration? Because what I learned was then when I'm vibrating on a higher energy, on energetic level, that all that negative, lower
Right.
energy stuff seems to just drop away.
Yep.
Because at first it was like, how do I get rid of the people? How do I get rid of the fact that I have a record? How do I, and none of that stuff I could do. But when I continued to just do better things came into my life.
Yeah.
It was that reciprocity,
Yep.
the law of attraction,
Yep.
the law of attraction, the creation frequency itself that allowed me to manifest and like just get to a point where I was able to like give back everything that I've been working so hard to get. And I can't tell you that it would have happened had I continued to be at that lower level, allowing myself to be in those lower level relationships,
Right.
holding myself back from greatness,
Right.
which is like completely different than where I was 6 years ago.
Well, you're a miracle for sure. I'm curious now, is these men that come into your sober living house, what are their struggles, and what is their, if you were to take them all as an average, what would the average guy's life look like? Where were they before they got to you? Where are they now that they're with you?
Well, I mean, a lot of them, it's came from programs. Some of them came from jail or prison, and they've all had so we go and we interview all these guys before they come in, and they've all had like a strong desire, right, to change their lives.
Do you think it's a sincere desire, or is it a desire born from desperation?
I think a lot of it is born from desperation.
Yeah.
It was for me,
Yeah.
because
But also there was some sincerity to your, you reached a point where you were sick and tired of being sick and tired. You hit bottom and said, okay, enough is enough. And you took little baby steps, like a little exercise, some affirmations, a little yoga in your jail cell. But are these guys willing to do that? You had desperation, I get, but you also had a sincere desire to change. I always say that, you were raised in a good foundation. I always say people go back to their foundation eventually, but some of these guys you're dealing with, they don't have a foundation. They don't have anything to really turn to. So I'm curious, what is their life like? What is their desperation level like? What is their hope like? Do they find hope? And how can we serve them to where this recovery sticks? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, and I think, they get that desperate point when they're either
in jail or
an institution
right.
or, and by the time they get to us, it's kind of, you can see, that they're doing the work.
Yeah.
Right. You can tell from talking to them. I mean, there's just, and I can't say that I'm right every time, because we've had guys come and leave right immediately, or leave a week later, or relapse and go back to jail, or go back to prison, or go back to program. The success rate for people that are addicted is not high.
Yeah.
Right. But I do think that what we provide for these men is a safe place.
Yeah. For where they have a choice, a safe place where they can start to make that turn towards recovery, where they can start to surrender and to a power greater than themselves. I want to ask you this, because I talk a lot about, I really believe in the power of surrender and becoming nowhere, no place, no thing, and accessing the field of infinite possibilities. But I also talk a lot about moving from the head to the heart and taking your power back. And speak to that a little bit. You have to surrender to a higher power to overcome this addiction problem, but then you also need this power to create a new life, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a contrast, but it's really not.
No, it's like the saying, surrender to win, or, whatever, or, and it's it's a process, right? Like, I still today take it back all the time and refuse to surrender. And what I've recognized is that when I'm forcing, when I'm manipulating, when I am forcing other people, manipulating other people, when I find myself lying or find myself pushing too hard, that's not me being connected, right? And what it is it's when I'm able to drop from my head to heart, right? I'm able to feel a connection. And I can't explain that. It's nothing that I can ever put into words, but it's a connection where no matter what's happening around me, no matter what chaos, no matter what everything else, I am grounded. And I'm able to move forward with integrity and with love and with compassion and be of service in whatever capacity that I'm able to. And that's how I try and live my life. And it's not perfect.
None of us are perfect, and this is not a perfect world. But it's the old cliche, let go, let God, right? There's some peace and power in that. That's a powerful act right there alone. Hey, excuse me, I want to bring Jacob in for 1 second. Malia deals with, hardcore addictions, alcohol, drugs. But I want to bring in Jacob. I want to ask him what's going on. He just left college, Ohio State University, in the past year or so. I'm curious what's going on with these college kids. What are they struggling with as far as addictions and bad habits? Jacob?
Yeah, before I get going, I just want to say to Malia, I honor you so much, and I thank you so much for sharing that vulnerability with us. And just much love to you. That's awesome. I'm 6 years sober. So yeah, with the college stuff, I think the big kind of addictions that at least that I saw, it's obviously phones. Rarely do you see kids even in lectures or anything paying attention. It's computers, phones, tablets. Everything just seems so broken to me. And the sex is a big one. It was for me when I came to college. Everybody's kind of coming into this new environment, and you download the dating apps, and that's all you're searching for, and you get addicted to that, and just swiping, and trying to find someone to just get with. And it's just such a wrong way to love and share your body in that way. and then the alcohol, and I think another big addiction is just even ideologies on like in the how students and these young adults are just getting
Indoctrinated with belief systems.
right, and
Yeah.
they become addictions, and
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah.
get them to open their mind to
Yes.
bigger possibilities.
Yes. Well, that's a
And
big one.
yeah,
Program.
so
It's
I think,
programming. It's addicting to a certain program, and without critical thinking, and then not having an open mind. That's a good one. I like that.
yeah, and it's just interesting because you start to challenge these things, and it becomes violent. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like that's why the environment just didn't align with me
Yeah.
at all, just because
Such
I
interesting.
mean, yeah. So, anyways, I mean, I think it stems from, especially with just the younger kids and everything that's happening in
Yep.
the world and all
Yep.
the pressure. It's just everything that is everything in this world.
Yep.
I mean, they're trying to numb, not they, I mean, me, all of us, we're trying to numb ourselves from the pain,
Yep.
from feeling aligned, from not
Yep.
having that purpose.
Yep.
And it's like, especially in the college system, you feel like I think a lot of kids know it. Like you're sitting in this system that's crumbling. Like
Yeah.
you go to a lecture, you're not learning. You're just getting all this regurgitated information that's
Yeah.
not really doing too much. You're not really learning, and you're not
Yeah.
applying it.
Wow.
And so everybody's just kind of like they know it inside, and it's hard to face that reality and face the fear that shoot, like this isn't working. I have no idea what my future looks like. I have no idea what I want.
Wow.
So there's just alcohol, there's parties, there's frat boys, there's sorority girls. I'm just going to focus on that.
So
And
no
that's when I think-
no one's striving for integrity, for character, for authenticity, right? It's all just 5 minutes of fame and TikTok or whatever, and there's no substance, is what I feel.
Yeah, and I don't want to make a generalization because obviously there's a bunch
Yeah.
of amazing people, but
Yeah.
I think the vast majority just gets sucked into. I keep
system.
bringing it back to like this broken system and
Yeah.
and just all the conditioning, and so it's tough, and you have to feel for them because I mean
Yeah.
everybody's going through their own journey, and it takes. That's the question I've been asking myself. How do you get someone to realize they're in this situation and start kind of moving away from that? Like those are the people I want to help, all the young adults who are feeling stuck.
Yep.
They have all these negative beliefs, they have limiting beliefs, they don't believe in themselves,
Yep.
and they can't figure out how to move forward. And so it's like, how do you get someone to move forward in such a
it.
loving way? And it's hard. And I mean, I think everyone, they're just on their own journey, and you have to find, it just has to come at the right time for that person with the universe's guidance. And
When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I really appreciate that. We only have a few minutes left. I want to switch back to Meglia. Meglia, what are some practical tips you could give to somebody right now that's struggling with some sort of alcohol or drug addiction? Just a few tips in a couple minutes or so that would be helpful.
I mean, really, it's just making, for me, it was just, okay, I can do this for an hour, right? I can do it for an hour. Ask for help.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be amazed at, I mean, when you ask for help, the people that are willing to help you, because it's a disease, it will kill you, right? At the end of the day, we will die from our disease if we can't get humble and ask for help. And, just like, love yourself. I mean, and there's so many things. Go to a program, go to detox, do all that stuff, but really it's not going to work unless you're ready for it to work.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the biggest thing for me was just like finally asking for help, right? Asking for help, even if I thought no one was going to help me. And what I do now is I do a lot of self-care. I do a lot of yoga. I do a lot of meditation, surrounding myself with positive people. The only thing that I had to change was everything.
Yeah.
And that was the only way it was ever going to work for me. I had to change absolutely everything about the way I was living. And it was really hard at first, but now it's so much easier and it's so much rewarding, so much more rewarding.
Yeah.
Like, I go to bed happy and my heart is full.
Yeah. Well,
because,
and it shows. I'm very proud of you. I've watched your life from a distance and now close up, and I'm so proud of what you've accomplished. Congratulations on 6 years. I'm sure everybody viewing, listening has fallen in love with both these guys as much as I have. And so they're going to be back for the next 3 or 4 weeks. We're going to go deeper into this subject with more tips and tools. Next week, we're going to really go take a deep dive into what if you're a parent of a kid? 'Cause I've been that. I've had 2 kids. I have 4 kids, but 2 were struggling. So I've been there. I know what that's like. So we're going to talk about it. But I was also the troubled kid that ran away at 14 like Melia, and got into all this trouble and had to go through my own type of recovery a long time ago. But what if you're the parent? What if you're the significant other? What if you're the kid? I dealt with my father's alcoholism up into my 20s, and that's a difficult life as well. So tune in next week if you really want to understand what to do if you're someone in your life is struggling with this. I'm going to throw it back to Jacob, and he's got a few more things for you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Before we cut off here, I just want to remind you that your feedback means everything to us. So if you loved what you heard, if you want to hear more, please take a minute to go leave us a review wherever you're listening, share your thoughts, and as a little ethical bribe, we will send you a little special mystery gift if you go ahead and do that and send us a screenshot. So all you have to do is go to mikemurphyunfiltered.com/mystery gift after leaving your review, and then follow the instructions on the page and we'll get you taken care of. And then, of course, as Mike mentioned, you can also just go to mikemurphyunfiltered.com and look at all the resources, the freebies, the course, the books, everything is there for you to consume and to learn and to use as a tool as you go on this journey. So that's all we have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Melia, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys next Thursday. Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Mike Murphy on The Creation Frequency. Thanks for tuning in, and don't miss the next show on TransformationTalkRadio.com as Mike Murphy and a cast of powerful guests strip away the veil of limitation using the groundbreaking practices of The Creation Frequency. For more information on Mike and his work, visit MikeMurphyUnfiltered.com.